funds to sanctuary cities that harbor undocumented immigrants, saying it would cause those cities immediate, irreparable harm. Now, of course, a Twitter rant followed where, who said, "See you in the Supreme Court." So, I mean, does what the judge is saying make sense?
Well, yes, Trump doesn't seem to want any blowback. So you have, the legislative branch and the executive branch are all Republican. The only thing that you can rely on to give you some kind of blowback is the judiciary. And then when they say no, he gets into a hissy fit like that. "I'll see you in the Supreme Court," the big threat. And he thinks it's a dictatorship, this guy.
He does. He doesn't understand the separation of powers.
Yes.
And we have that for a reason. We want that constitutional balance, and we certainly want checks and balances on the president. And that's why there's that separation.
Right.
But what's interesting in the Twitter rant, he says the Ninth Circuit. This judge is not on the Ninth Circuit. This judge is a federal judge in San Francisco. So if he looks,
where's the Ninth Circuit?
The Ninth Circuit covers several states, and California is one of those states. So if he wants to appeal it, he can appeal it to the Ninth Circuit. But how could he not understand that the judge is not even seated there?
Ask that? I think he took the talking point, because people often talk about the Ninth Circuit as being an activist court and more of a liberal court in terms of their rulings. So I think he ran with a talking point that unfortunately did not apply accurately in this case.
Precision is not his strong suit.
But I do have a hard time. I think he is right on the issue of sanctuary cities. I've always struggled with the concept of sanctuary cities myself because they violate federal law. The United States law, U.S. law requires these jurisdictions to notify ICE, to notify the federal government if you have undocumented immigrants living in your region. And these cities essentially say, we're not going to uphold federal law. We're going to reserve our right to do that. And I don't understand how cities, how jurisdictions can selectively decide which laws they like. For example, if a city in Texas or the state of Texas decided they didn't like gay marriage rulings or they didn't like Roe versus Wade, people would be up in arms saying, this place doesn't have the right to override federal law.
That's what they've done. Listen, when you say states' rights, this is states' rights. Listen, the states, our state says, well, so is, marijuana laws is federal law. States say, listen, we think it's okay, and we're going to go with this. I believe very strongly.
That's not actually accurate in terms of the federal law that you're citing.
No. Do you know because it's important?
It's very in the weeds, so I don't want to get too in the weeds.
Well,
but
don't get in the weeds. Just tell the point.
It's just not accurate to say that these sanctuary. First of all, there aren't any designated sanctuary cities, and that's one of the problems with trying to say that they're not following a federal law, because there is no necessarily federal law that says these particular cities have to do it. But the problem that I also have with Republicans and conservatives is that they always want limited government, yet they don't have a problem with using the arm of the federal government to somehow squash states' rights. I mean, and that's...
But I think what Jed was saying, which is the part I agree with, is the part I take issue with in regard to sanctuary cities, and this is one case that was really famous in 2015. There was an undocumented immigrant who shot a girl. Now, this was a gentleman who who had been deported 5 times. He had 7 felonies. He was on probation from Texas and fled to San Francisco knowing he'd be protected. I think everyone can agree when it comes to people that are this is a 5-time felon.
Right, he shouldn't have been
He should not be in this.
But then the federal government can get involved, because ICE are federal government agents. What the federal government wants these states to do is to employ state resources. That is not the business of the state.
I'm not saying what Trump has done is constitutional. I'm saying that I think something has to be tightened up here. We should never have these criminals here.
But here's the thing. If you cut funding to the people who are supposed to be watching out, if you cut funding to the folks whose job it is to say, listen, this guy's been out 5 times, we got to grab him. If you cut all that, if you cut all of the things that we've put in place to grab somebody, and there's a lot of things that go wrong, but I don't think you can name more than maybe, and I mean no disrespect, but you can name 5 times in the 25, 30 years of people going, because people try to follow the law. People try to keep felons out. They try to do it. But if people are coming in and their name is not on the thing and you're not taking care of that, I mean, there's stuff in place we could be doing.
Well,
that we're not doing.
the federal official had asked to be notified if this guy was flagged, and the local officials.
But
because that's the job of the federal government, not
right.
of the
But
state.
I'm saying at that point, when it comes to criminals, I feel like it takes a village. There, I'm not saying the way Trump is doing it, but there's got to be a tightening of someone's flagged here, and you should be saying we're all in this together when it comes to breaking the law.
Yes, you have to do it, but you have to have the people in place to do it.
But also,
It's the federal agents, not the state.
But when you talk about states' rights, the primary job of the federal government, in my view, is national security. That is their primary job. So when people are fighting about states' rights issue, oftentimes they're fighting for things that they believe the federal government has overtaken authority that was reserved constitutionally to the states. Here, we're talking about an issue of immigration and national security. The federal government should be involved. ICE should be involved. And if you have a jurisdiction that's saying, we're not going to cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement.
They're saying that they're not going to become federal agents, Jed.
Right,
That's
but
what they're
Are
saying.
they going to communicate? Are they going to report these people to ICE and say these are
I do
undocumented?
They don't have to
I do believe
That's crazy.
that
That's crazy.
people, when the laws are in place, if there is a criminal, there's nothing saying that New York can't take care of that. That they're not going to deport somebody and say, we've put this person out. You know, as I said the other day, Obama deported more illegal immigrants than any president.
He did. Undocumented.
Than any president. Or undocumented word. The words, it's like being black or Negro or African American. I can't remember. I can't remember the right word. Okay? I'm going to say what I remember. Like, come on. You know?
It's sort of like the Underground Railroad in a way it reminds me of, or the people in Germany who took in the Jews. It's like there are people who are really in trouble, who are going to be separated from their children. And so, you know, anyway, where's Melania going to go if we don't have any sanctuary cities?
I think that's a fair point, though. I think there are I think that's a fair point. No one's talking about. I mean, there are families here that get broken up. There are good, hardworking people that came here, were undocumented, and are contributing to society. But we also have an issue of crime coming across. We also have an issue
you know
of
what? I'm
women
sorry.
who are
We don't have an
assaulted and
issue
raped
of
trying to get here.
And that's
those
just
things.
I don't want my local police officer trying to pretend to be a federal immigration officer. I don't want. I don't want
and
that.
let's
That's
not
their
spread
job.
this thing that rapists and murderers are coming from other countries.
No,
I just want to.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are women.
So let me clear. I'm trying to clear it up for you. I'm trying to help you.
That's not what's up.
I'm trying to help you because if that's what my ear heard, that's what I'm saying. That's not what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are women who, in an effort to come here and find a better life, oftentimes find themselves in precarious situations where they are raped and they are assaulted in an effort to get to the United States.
And so?
Because they are because that's the argument to secure the border, to protect those people, to protect people.
We'll be right back because you know we got to finish talking about that.
There's only one place where you'll find the hottest topics.
That's what we do.
Yes! And most fearless voices.
You need a strong voice to be heard in Hot Topics.
Anything goes when the biggest names in politics.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Kellyanne Conway.
Elizabeth Warren.
Hit our table live.
Governor John Kasich. Let's talk about Trump. You did not endorse him.
I call it like I see it. We need to send a message up.
And next week, our political view is sizzling with Ann Coulter.
It's going to be interesting.
You just can't miss.
New y'all.
All new on ABC. Still ahead, Caitlyn Jenner spilling the secrets of her life and her bombshell claims of why she thinks O.J. Simpson got away with murder.
So we're talking about. So what we figured out is that Texas should have flagged for someone when somebody has a rap sheet this
You're
length.
referring to the case I brought up in
Case that you brought up.
2015, the gentleman that shot someone.
What do you have?
He had 5 felony
Right.
convictions and,
Right.
5 deportations, 7
Right.
felonies.
Right. So 7 felonies should tell you. Don't let forget where he's from. 7 felonies. You should not be back on the street.
Period.
But what
Exactly.
tends to happen, I think, is jurisdictions say, "Well, let somebody else deal with it." It wasn't San Francisco's fault. My point was, had someone said.
In Texas, where he was on probation.
7 felonies. It's like when you see on the news, they say this person had 25 DUIs.
Yeah.
It's like, wait.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to get. You're not supposed to be able to get 25 DUIs.
But I think the larger issue that I want to say is, yes, that was a horrible case. That's something that shouldn't have happened. But if you look at the statistics, by and large, people that are coming from other countries are not those people. They by and large commit less crimes than people that are homeborn. And so to legislate based on fear, to legislate based on that one example is wrong. That is not what our Constitution
That is what you call anecdotal.
I'm not talking about the wall and blocking out people that come in to commit crimes. I'm saying if you're committing a crime and you're here, whether you're legal or undocumented, you need to be punished.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you
And
can't come
we
here
all
and
agree on that.
Well, we do, but there's some intricacy to how they actually execute this.
Well, you have to talk
But
to
do
Texas.
you believe, tell me, I'm curious though, do you find these sanctuary cities to be constitutional, in your opinion? Do you
Yes,
find
because
that
I
their
think there's a
existence to be-
separation between states and the federal government. If the federal government wants to do its job and have ICE agents go into these cities and and arrest people, then that's one thing. But if you're asking local authorities to put on a federal ICE hat and then start arresting people, that makes me nervous because a lot of times our local authorities racially profile. A lot of times our local authorities don't know how to do their jobs, and I certainly don't want to put that extra hat on them.
I don't think you should deputize. You shouldn't deputize the local authorities, but I do agree. I do believe when they go through the system at the local level and they've been flagged for multiple offenses, that just giving a phone call, hey, we've got this guy, and detain the person.
Yeah, that's just communication. That's not them. That's just communicating
And they're
information.
asking for more than that.
They are.
Yeah, they are.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah. What you're saying is there should be a way to say, okay, here are the people that are creating the issue. But as we all know, sometimes people get overzealous, which we've seen with some of the arrests that have happened. So what I want people to feel comfortable when they come here. That they're going to work their way, because we don't have a lot of the same issues that other people have. And I think people are working their butts off. These federal authorities, the local authorities are working their butts off to keep our various cities safe. And I don't think that this helps. And also the rhetoric from the new guy doesn't help either.
No.
And stop saying you're going to go to the Supreme Court. What do you don't own them.
That's
You don't own the Supreme Court.
Now that Mitch McConnell has jumped over all the laws and rules of the Supreme Court, and we got Gorsuch in there, they do own it.
No, they
Gorsuch,
don't. They
we'll
do
see.
not own it.
Gorsuch is
No, they
very,
do not
very
own it.
well balanced, and I think
we'll see.
oftentimes you find that someone comes in. No, but oftentimes you find that there are assumptions made about how the Supreme Court is going to rule. We saw this with Obamacare. We saw this with Roberts. We've seen this in the past where the assumption is made that because they're put in by a Republican, they're going to rule in a way that pleases a Republican president.
It's not just
or,
that he's a
or vice
Republican,
versa.
it's
That
his
doesn't always
record.
happen.
It's his record.
They are supposed to look at the Constitution.
Right.
That's what they are
Well,
supposed to do if they're doing their job.
And if they're doing their job, we will continue to see things like this where people say, in the bigger picture, this is not going to work for us as a nation. So you have to figure out how to do this.
They're
It's
guardians of the Constitution, and now
if they're doing their job.
Well, this judge, I mean, I hope people will go and read this opinion. It is so well written. It is so
And he's not
logical.
the guy is not a Mexican like the last one, so Trump can't say, "Oh, he's Mexican."
No, and
This guy is not.
He said it's unconstitutional.
And not because he favors one above the other, but because he feels it will throw such disarray into cities that we should not be placing that kind of burden on any city. And that's a reasonable discussion to have. So,
And you certainly...
there you are. What?
I love this stuff.
She loves this. We'll be right back. All right now. All right now. Well, Yvette, you know who has also backed down from insisting that the new government funding bill include paying for the border wall, but Republicans are proposing other ways and to pay for it. And Ted Cruz says use the money from El Chapo and stuff, and Fox News floated the idea of using corporate sponsorship. So we feel that the wall could be paid for if we make it look like this. Okay?
Advertising dollars.
Yes. Get advertising, you know. And then we don't have to pay for it. You know, Trump steaks, bail bonds, you know, immigration law, you know, so advertise.
Marriage proposals, you could buy a page.
Yes.
Will
and
you marry me?
Yes. And have it both in English and in Spanish.
Yes,
and in
of course.
Italian, because you never know who's coming over. You know?
But, you know, I got to tell you, I don't always agree with things that Senator Cruz says or endorses, but I thought this was actually kind of ingenious if he's saying any amounts forfeited to the U.S. government as a result of the criminal prosecution of El Chapo or any drug cartel should go to building this wall, because I don't think the taxpayer should pay $26 billion. But if this is
no,
something
we shouldn't be paying for anything. He said they're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for it. Well, they are going to pay for it because we're not.
Right. I want to clear something up. I want to clear something up, and I want to clear something up from the last segment when I said, you know, the local authorities don't know how to do their job. What I meant to say is they don't need that additional hat. They don't necessarily know how to enforce federal immigration law, and that could lead to racial profiling. So I wasn't trying to say that, you know, local authorities are not
they
doing
have
their
to be
job. They have a
trained.
really
They would have to be trained
They
to
have
do
to be
that.
trained to do that.
Right.
I just want to comment on the wall, though, because it's so interesting to me how quickly he had to back down. It's almost like he's learning that you can't just say, we're going to do this, and everyone's going to hand their money over. And he's also learning how government works, that you can't bundle these bills, as we've talked about before. So somebody said to him, this is going to be yet another embarrassing moment for you. This is not going to work. The government's going to shut down. It's going to be bad publicity for you and Republicans. So thank you for waking up.
New guy. We showed you what you can do. Because you know all the companies that, you know, that all the people that you put in place who have their companies like ExxonMobil and all these, they can all advertise. They can pay for the wall so that we don't have to see. You can get Breitbart to put some money up. You got the stakes up there.
Ivanka,
you can do that.
You can put Ivanka's clothing line up there.
There's the emoluments clause, don't forget.
You know?
They can't do
Yeah,
that.
you can't do that.
They can't
but
do that.
you can
Maybe
advertise.
Michael Flynn, he could trade it in for prison time.
Well, yeah.
He could build
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can do. That you can do.
community service for Michael Flynn.
So, you know, so, you know, we spoke about this baby that was coming that is going to be the niece of our EP.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the baby came, so we're congratulating our executive producer, new Uncle Brian. That's the new baby. His sister, Allison, gave birth to Olivia. You know, Olivia Martha. She weighed in at 7 pounds, 12 ounces.
Oh, beautiful.
We'll be right back.
Next, Caitlyn Jenner is live to reveal if she ever got a response after she called President Trump's transgender policy a disaster.
You made a promise to protect the LGBTQ community. Oh.
Since Caitlyn Jenner became one of the most famous transgender people in the world, and now she says she has nothing left to hide after writing her stunningly candid memoir, The Secrets of My Life. Please welcome the fabulous Caitlyn Jenner.
They like you. They really like you.
No, I haven't been here in so long. Anything new with you guys?
No,
Not so much. Just not so much.
How about you?
Good. No, just a couple of things, but nothing major. Nothing major. Yes. No, just living my life authentically. What a wonderful thing to do.
That's great. Wonderful.
And now that the book's out, I absolutely have no secrets left.
Nothing.
It's kind of
Yes.
light.
It
and
is
good.
the most rewarding, freeing spirit. My whole life, it was basically I played it in the shadows. Nobody knew. I hid from people. For 6 years of my life, I spent it in a house and never really came out, in Malibu.
Right.
And never really came out because I never felt like I fit in. I came out to buy groceries and go to work once in a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very difficult times. You struggle when you struggle with your identity and about who you are. It's tough. It's tough. The only thing I said about about the book, I see a lot of the promos that are going on here, and there's promos of Chris, and then, oh my God, OJ. This is not a tabloid book, okay?
No.
Okay, it's not a tabloid book. It's a book of my story. And of course, the tabloids are going to run with 1 or 2 sentences.
Yeah, well, you want to sell it, don't you?
And it's also, yes, that's right. And it's also not a political book. Obviously, politics plays a part in it, but I mean, politics literally in the book of 320 pages is a page and a half.
Yeah.
It's a book about my struggle, my story.
Right.
What I want to get out of it, and what I want people to realize, hopefully, in reading it. And so far, the response has been so good. I got 5 stars on Amazon. You know, that this book is about a story about my journey, about all the things that I dealt with in my life as far as identity.
Yeah.
And everybody has their stuff, you know, that they have to deal with in life. We all have it, you know. I remember years ago, remember we did a thing on being dyslexic?
Yes, we did.
Yes, a long time ago. You know, we have our stuff growing up and our issues. Everybody has that. In reading this and being extraordinarily honest.
Very honest.
Yes.
And it's
Extraordinarily
worth reading.
honest in
I
it.
read it in. Jed was
Yeah,
surprised.
we were talking about
I
it.
read it
We were
over
reading
it.
Both
a day and a half.
Yeah.
Day and a half.
It's fantastic.
a quick
Yeah, and telling my stuff and being honest, that people can look at their own lives, because it's not like a self-help book, like
Yeah.
this or that, but in their own lives, because we all have to deal with stuff,
Yeah.
and how wonderful it is to get through it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
you're
to
not
live your
through
life
all of it.
honestly.
You know, you're not through all of it. You still got time.
Oh, I got time to mess it up.
You know what I want
Yes,
to tell
I got
you?
plenty of time.
Here's
girl.
what I want to tell you about the book. I listened to it, and I wish that
Oh,
you
I
had
loved it.
read it.
You know what? I said the exact same thing.
yes.
When I didn't
Yeah.
do. I did
Did
the
the
opening.
introduction,
I
yes.
did the introduction, and being dyslexic, as
Yes.
we both know, you know, I certainly can read, and I read all the time, but I'm not what I would consider a really fluid, good reader.
Yeah.
You know. And I thought, and because we talked about it, and I
Yeah.
said, you know what, for the
first book.
CD, I just thought it would be better if I had a professional
Right.
read it.
Yeah.
Well,
So we went through a whole bunch of girls.
Yes.
And we wound up
Let's-
having this lady, and she
Right.
was
She's
phenomenal.
fantastic.
Yeah, she was a fantastic.
But you know, one of the things that everybody is surprised about, you talked a little bit about it right here, is being political.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Unfortunately, I can't help it in this
no,
environment.
you can't.
Yeah.
So how can you guide the new guy? How can you guide the new guy? And what would you say
First
to
of all,
him?
okay, this is how it goes.
Because you voted for him.
I did vote for him.
Yeah,
I've been on the Republican side
Yeah.
all my life.
All your
I
life,
believe
yeah.
in, you know, limited government. I believe
Right.
in the Constitution.
Can we get a high
I
five
believe
on that, girl?
Thank you, baby. Thank you. I'm here to help. I'm here to help.
Thank you.
And
You voted for him,
you know,
but-
I believe in that, in the Republican side of it. And so, but I know that they're not as good when it comes to all LGBT issues.
Yeah, right.
And the Democrats do a better job. And I got so much criticism for that. I mean, but I can handle this stuff.
Yes, I know.
And so
What can
it
you
was
do better?
disappointing. It was disappointing when Trump, when he first came out. I did talk to
did
him
he
one
come
time.
out?
Yes. I'm I'm working on him. I want him to read the book and be honest. Maybe he'll come out.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, when he first came out, he wound up being, the Republican, candidate. Right. And so, of course, I'm on that side. But I talked to him during the campaign, and he was actually pretty good on LGBT issues. He supported a girl named Jenna Telikova in 2012, before all of this, who was a trans girl in Canada who was in the Miss Universe pageant, and totally supported her and said, hey, if you come down, you make it to the finals, you're in.
Yeah. But that was when he was running, right?
No, this is before he was running.
Before he was
This is
running.
2012.
So what's happened? What can you say to him that says, listen, you need to remember, we're all Americans here.
Yes.
How can you help us?
I was extraordinarily disappointed when the whole Title IX, when he did that. And I'm telling you, my loyalties are not with the Republican Party. My loyalties are not with Donald Trump. My loyalties are with my community.
Okay, so if you had to vote again, would you still vote for him?
Here's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, you asked that question, it's a legitimate question.
Yeah. The question was, would you vote for him again?
Yes.
You couldn't hear it.
3.5 years from now is about light years away when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
Let's see where we're at.
Well, I'm saying, do you regret doing it? Do you regret voting?
Do I regret doing it? I don't know yet. I regret on that issue. I regret, I regret it. But I also like a conservative judge on the Supreme Court. I think that's a good decision. I think we have to be respected around the world. And I think, some of the things he's doing, we'll see how it turns out. We don't know yet, but how it turns out. I like a strong America. I like a strong military.
Yeah.
Would you,
And so, yeah.
What about you? You're so good at this politics stuff. Honestly, I mean, I'm a center-right girl, and I want to vote for you. I mean, would you run for office? I'm serious.
Put it this way. Okay, this is how this goes. I remember years ago, I had done a few speeches for Republican events. And every time I get off the stage, they'll go, oh, my God, you should run for office. And I'm thinking in my head, I got way too many secrets. And so I go, they would destroy me. I said I couldn't do it, okay? Now, I don't have one secret left. There's nothing left, okay?
And is the country ready for a woman president? That would be the question.
There you go. There you go.
Wait.
Yeah, and
Hold
so...
up. Wait. We're going to go and come right back because we're going to continue talking to Caitlin about life.
I love that.
We'll be right back.
This week, you want Hot Topics? You know you do. Well, then tell them, Whoopi.
We'll get to Hot Topics right now.
And we're hanging with these strong, fearless women. Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg and Salma Hayek. Wow. Plus, Dr. Phil comes to our house.
Wait. There's more.
Because Friday is
Sky Day Friday. Like, that's very catchy, isn't it?
And we are lapping it up with Dr. Ken.
TGIF.
It's all new this week on the Emmy-nominated View.
Well, you should ask that question. Hey, we're back with Caitlyn Jenner. Talking about the new revealing book, The Secrets of My Life. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is that you always knew you were Caitlyn.
Yes, I didn't know my name.
You didn't know your name?
That is one of the most difficult things in life. Can you imagine trying to name yourself?
It's hard.
Yeah, oh my God. I
Did
changed
you have
names.
options?
I went here, I went
Give
there.
us an option that you had.
Heather was one for a
That's
long time.
good.
Why? Because when I was in college, this goes back a long time, there was this group called the Serendipity Singers.
Yes.
At little
Yes.
Graceland, and at Graceland College in Iowa, and they had this song Heather, and Heather is her name, and this and that. And I'm listening to it. Oh my God, that's like a great name.
Yeah.
But then that faded out. Yeah. That's not good. And then I went to other names, but. The funny thing was, eventually with my assistant, when I told her, a year before I transitioned, she goes, oh my God, what do I call you? And I said, God, that's the greatest question. And she goes, I always liked Caitlyn. And that was on my list.
Right.
But she said I would spell it Caitlyn. It'd spell a little bit different. And at some point, you just got to bite the bullet and say, go. The funny part was when I told Kim.
Right.
I tell Kim. And I say, okay, it looks like I'm doing this, okay? And they're all, oh my God, And she goes, oh my God, what am I going to call you? And First of all, I said, Dad's fine. I have no problem with that. And all my kids still call me Dad, which is fine. I'll be their dad until the day they die, okay? And I said, well, Caitlin. And she goes, oh, thank God you stayed with the K's. And I said, no, I'm staying with the C. She goes, oh, you could just see how deflated she was. Yeah.
So does she call you Caitlin now? Does she call you Caitlin?
Oh, yes, everybody does. Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
Go.
we were talking about this. You know, we talk a lot about male privilege here, especially white male privilege. And for 65 years, you had that. How has it been different to now all of a sudden be experiencing life as a woman and as a transgendered woman?
Okay. Yes, I did have that. I've lived a very interesting life. I always say I've got the ultimate double, and I won the Olympic decathlon, combined with I won Glamorous Woman of the Year. Maybe that's about as good as it gets. That's as good. That's a wonderful life right there. But a lot of people have a hard time with male to female transgendered people because of that certain thing. Why would you give up that male privilege? Okay?
It's a little deeper than that.
Why would you? Yeah, and why would you give that up? What we consider in society as a strong male, but a weak female. First of all, on the female side, I can look at it very differently. Okay, because I did live as a male for 65 years, so I think I have a different perspective. First of all, I think women underestimate themselves. You know, I think because they're kind of brought up in a way that, you know, they're female, they're weak, they're this. I was always with very strong women, from Chris from Chris to Linda to Christy to 3 times I was married. They were always I was always attracted to strong women. And I think women in a lot of ways underestimate themselves just because of the way society treats it. I don't see it that way. I look at women as the amount of power that they do have. They have power in the boardroom. You know, they have ways, feminine ways, to be able to get what they want. And I really respect women who have learned that. But I think it's hard. And for me, I still have little Bruce living inside. I still do so many of the same things I used to do. I race cars. I fly golf. I fly airplanes. I got my motorcycle. My battery went blue, and I got my motorcycle fixed. And so I can still do all those things.
Women do all those things.
But women can do all those things. I just look a lot better doing it.
We want to get to a clip of something. In this week's episode of Keeping Up with Kardashians,
Uh-oh, here you go.
Chris reacts to having read your book. Let's take a look.
Did Kate bring the book over?
I read it, and basically the only nice thing she had to say was that I was great socially at a party one time. Like,
But yet,
who cares? Like,
he stayed married to you the longest. So it doesn't make sense.
none of it made sense. Everything she says is all made up.
So, wow. Have you spoken to her since this episode aired?
No. No. I wanted to give her a call and say, hey, look, I'm going out to promote the book. I'm going to be on air. I want to see kind of how I should handle what you're doing, because I had found out online the week before they were promoting that. And to me, first of all, we had 23 great years together. The last few were a little tough, and we mutually decided to go our separate directions, and it was a mutual decision. The divorce really was one day. And that's all it took. And, you know, she found the house. She decorated the house where I was moving in Malibu. I mean, she was very gracious and great. And we stayed friends for a long time. But what I say in the beginning of it, this is my story. You know, this is not her story. This is my story. This is the way I saw things in my life. Right. And I think in so many ways, and I say so many nice things about her in the book.
You do.
But
you do.
her perception of what happened and my perception are different, which is okay. And I wish you hadn't gone down that road on the show, but it's a reality
But it is
drama.
a reality show.
Yes.
And so, look, you have to come back. You just have to. You know what? Please come back and co-host with us.
I will come back and
Come back and co-host with us. Come back. You know? Yeah. mean you have a great time. It's crazy over
Can't
here.
do Friday anymore.
No, well, no.
Joy and I, we have a lot to talk about,
We
don't
do,
we?
yes,
we do.
You know, I'm not even bringing it up. You know that.
Yeah.
Look, come back anytime.
Okay, I will.
Anytime.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to Caitlyn
Appreciate it.
Jenner. Her book, The Secrets of My Life, is available now. And we, of course, will be right back. You wanna read this.
Yeah.
You really do.
You know,
Tomorrow, Dr. Phil McGraw's laying it all on the table. And 2 years after the shocking death of her husband, Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg reveals her inspiring secrets of strength and survival.
So, winner of 6 Academy Awards, La La Land, is out now on Blu-ray and DVD, and members of our audience are getting a copy. So, you know, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming. We just want to say to you, have a great day, everybody, and take a little time to enjoy whatever view you happen to find.